Hello and welcome to Audio Biography, the podcast, where we talk about the music that changed our lives and yours. I'm your host, Richie Wagner, with my co-host, Clint Robinette. What's up, Clint?
Hey, Richie. Oh, not much. I'm enjoying seeing the sun in the winter because that's a rarity here in Ohio. So I can see from your background the sunshine there too. So what a glorious day to record.
Yeah, it's been a nice day. I've been out running errands and doing stuff, and I'm glad to be recording. So we're up to 1975 now, but before we get into that, have you listened to Billy Joel's new song yet?
No. He has a new song?
Yeah, and it's really good.
What?
Yeah, you're gonna have to check it out. Let's see, I'm trying to think of the name of it. Is it too late to turn the lights back on or something?
Turn the lights back on?
Yeah, turn the lights back. It's classic. It sounds a lot like, like ballady 70s Billy Joel. It's really good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I just thought I'd mention it here because it's brand new and just in the last couple of days. So they've done some things with his voice on there that makes it sound like old Joel. They've taken the grit. You can tell they've taken kind of the grit out so that because if you've seen him live lately, he's a lot like all the other guys. I mean, it's the old man voice, but it's a good song. Check it out.
I'm just visualizing an audio sander, if you will. And we see some rough edges in that sound. Let's just grind off those rough edges there. Oh man, now it sounds great. Let's record that.
That's kind of what it sounds like too. It makes it sound a little bit weird too, because you can actually tell, because like on the very back end of it, like there's still a little bit of it there, so it just makes it. You'll listen in headphones when you listen. You can hear it in the headphones. Otherwise, you can't really, because I played it last night for somebody and we were just listening on the stereo. But it's good. It's a well-written song, and it sounds like Billy Joel. So we've not had anything in decades from him, so that's pretty nice.
No, we haven't. And isn't it amazing what you can pick up when you have really good headphones?
Totally. People, if you're not listening to music through headphones, do it. I mean, you don't have to all the time. Sure, we like to sit around in our comfy chairs and just listen on the stereo, but if you really want to sit and listen and do some hardcore, like thinking about it, listening, put on some headphones, especially if you're listening to vinyl.
Yeah, that's been the big difference for me, is I just feel like they're just sounds that I don't hear. And I didn't think this was a real thing. I used to just think it was bullshit that people would say, oh, you can hear everything on vinyl that you can't hear when you're listening to a compressed, like an MP3, or if you're streaming something. No, I really do hear different sounds, different beats, different nuances when listening to vinyl, especially listening to it through with a good set of headphones.
Even high bit rate MP3s, they are still a little nasty. I mean, they're still not great. They're not perfect. They're not a record. I mean, CDs are definitely better. All right, let's just jump right into 1975, and I'm going to go first. Our lists are very, very similar this time. We're only going to be covering 6 songs because 4 are duplicated. So that tells you this is a year that me and Clint are really in sync, and I've got a surprise for him as well. You're going to be shocked later.
Oh, okay. Well, I can't wait for that. Well, I would say this though, even though we've got 4 common ones in our list, 4 common albums, I would say this was a very, very difficult year. And I'm not just saying that. There's just so much good music. So let's get into it and you'll find out.
Yeah, we'll start here with my number 5, which is Venus and Mars by Wings. This is obviously me loving Paul McCartney like I do. And I think it's a really underrated record. It's not a record by Wings or Paul McCartney that gets talked about a whole lot. It's really just not. But this was them. I don't know. They were, when it comes to rock and roll, they were sort of spreading their wings.
Oh my gosh. Can you put a warning on this podcast for gratuitous dad joke?
Yeah, I had to do it. No, listen, this is a rock and roll record, more so than any so far through the Wings catalog. I love the beginning. It starts with the sweet little Venus and Mars for a couple of minutes, right into Rock Show, which is just fantastic song. I would say one of the big reasons that this is on my list for a favorite from this year, other than it being Paul McCartney, and I'm listening to Paul McCartney all the time, is the song "Listen to What the Man Said." Love that song. Love, love, love it. And here's one of the reasons why. This was a sneak preview into solo Paul McCartney in the late 70s, early 80s. It sounds like one of those songs to me. It's kind of got that sound. It's just a fun song. It just grooves. It makes you want to bob your head, and it just makes me feel good. Just the sound of it. I don't even care what the lyrics are. But that's my favorite song on this record. Magneto and Titanium Man. That's a cool song, and I bet you 1% of our listeners have ever even heard it. So go check that one out. I won't get into it too much. Neat song. This was also the record where Paul McCartney is trying to make Wings a band like he was in. The whole reason he even started Wings was because Paul McCartney likes to be in a band. Came from the Beatles, obviously. No duh there. But when he started Wings, he wanted to recreate that atmosphere. He never did. Okay, let's get that straight. And part of it was his own fault because once he got his own band and he was the leader, he couldn't give up a lot of control. But on this record, he gave it up a couple of times. You've got Spirits of Ancient Egypt. That's a Denny Lane song written and sung. It's a weird, like, the chorus doesn't even go with the spirits of ancient Egypt doesn't even go with what the song. It's just a weird song, man.
I would agree.
But it's a good song. It was Denny Lane getting to shine for a minute, and then Medicine Jar, which is Jimmy McCullough, and of course we know that he had major drug problems, and they finally got him, and that's what this song's about. So this was sort of it's a bittersweet song looking back. But so yeah, so he gave up a couple of songs, one each, to those guys, and was trying to make this a band. Like I said, that idea never really took off because once Paul McCartney had the actual control, that's how he wanted things to be. So I'm gonna throw it to you and see if you got any thoughts on this record. I know that you probably similar to me.
Yeah, so it almost made my top five. It almost crept in there. Just didn't quite make it, just because there's so many other good albums. But let's talk about this album. I think it's really strong, and I didn't realize how strong it was till this past week, giving it a listen. I was texting you about Rock Show. There's a Rock Show kind of goes into a quiet part toward the end of the song with about a minute and a half left, and then it kind of picks back up. And only toward the end of the song, there is a pitch, there's a sound. And I'm like, Rich, go listen to that. Tell me you don't hear Talking Heads. Like, think about Stop Making Sense, Talking Heads. And do you know did you ever pick up on that sound?
I did, yeah, and actually I really hadn't before until you pointed it out. So,
and it's only because I've listened to Stop Making Sense a billion times, approximately. So that sound is just ingrained in my brain. But when I heard it, I'm like, and Paul does this all the time. I don't know people realize or just don't give him credit how incredibly influential Paul McCartney. I mean, all the Beatles, but Paul especially, he's a master at creating sounds and just obviously writing songs, but I mean, he's an incredible musician. And it was just a sound. It was just a one-off sound, but I was just like, huh. Yeah, Talking Heads is going to use that tone, that sound in their live show. And I just thought that was really cool. The other part I really like is at the end, and Paul did this a lot with Wings. He did this on Red Rose Speedway, where he had a medley at the end of the album. But listen to What the Man Said goes right into Treat Her Gently and Lonely Old People. I mean, I love how he just does that.
yeah,
Obviously, he loved doing that on Abbey Road.
it's his favorite trick.
It's a beautiful trick.
And we kind of talked about it, I guess, with when we were talking about Band on the Run or maybe Red Rose. I don't know. We've talked about him before in this series already. He has snippets of songs. He has ideas. He has musical ADHD, and one of the ways that he can get those out without having to flesh them completely out into a entire song is he puts them with all these other songs that they shouldn't go with, and then he makes them work. And it's one of his genius tricks that he does.
Genius is absolutely correct.
Yep. I don't think we're overusing that when we talk about somebody like him for sure.
No, he's number one. He's the pole position in musical geniuses for me.
Yeah, it's 1 and 1A, him and Prince for me, but yeah, for sure. I mean, it's what it is. I'll die on that hill for sure. All right, that's my number 5. Venus and Mars. Let's see what you got.
Okay, excellent pick for you. Number 5 for me is "Wish You Were Here" by Pink Floyd,
Very nice.
and that's number 4 for you.
Yep, that's my number 4.
So I love this era, Pink Floyd. Obviously, we've already talked about Dark Side of the Moon a couple of episodes ago. I'll be honest with you, this almost did not make my top 5. That's how great 1975 was. But just in the end, I could not leave this out. So there's only 5 songs on the album, or really 4 songs if you want to be technical about it. "Shine On You Crazy Diamond," "Welcome to the Machine," "Have a Cigar," the title track, "Wish You Were Here," and then the second part of "Shine On You Crazy Diamond." So before I listen to the studio version, I'm going to go back to Pulse, the live Pink Floyd album. And it's, again, my dad had such a influence on my musical taste. Riding around, I swear, I'm picturing this old Nissan truck he had. It's a copper mid to late 80s, maybe early 90s Nissan truck. And he had a Pioneer CD player in it. So he had a, aftermarket CD player put in it. But just listening, me and my sister, when he'd get us for the weekend or something, we pile in that truck and just be listening to different things. And this is probably one of the things we were listening to at that time. It's just an image I get in my head. That's where I first heard "Shine On You Crazy Diamond" was on that live album. And I heard "Wish You Were Here" on there. So, you get that initial impression, but then, I talked about with Dark Side of the Moon, listening to albums all the way through and getting a better appreciation for that. Well, "Wish You Were Here" would fall into that category too. I think, yes, you can one off these songs. I mean, most people would probably just one off "Wish You Were Here." If you listen to like satellite radio, they're going to play every song. They don't play like the whole "Shine On You Crazy Diamond" on there very often, but they're going to play "Welcome to the Machine" and "Have a Cigar" as well as "Wish You Were Here." But it's a great album. It would be great in its own right, just with "Shine On You Crazy Diamond," which is an homage to Syd Barrett. I'm not the biggest, I wasn't the biggest fan of Pink Floyd's really early stuff with Syd Barrett. You can see the progression of, if they keep working toward this, it's going to be really good. Once Roger Waters, Sid, I think he was just went crazy, and Roger Waters just assumed control, and they brought in David Gilmour, and that's when they really started to make some great music. And so they're in their prime when this album comes out, and just excellent songwriting, excellent guitar playing. This to me proves, and even the wall, even so much after this, "Animals in the Wall," it makes you think about how much Roger Waters, how big of an impact or how much he is Pink Floyd, and then and that's why everything after Roger Waters sounds like Pink Floyd, but it's kind of not really Pink Floyd. Now, I know I'm going to piss some people off by saying that, but it's like just two different bands. And again, this album's a prime example. They've had the great success of Dark Side of the Moon, but man, this one's right there. It's not as great as that, I don't think, but it's got many moments of greatness on the album. So what do you think, Rich?
So a few things. You mentioned this is one of those records that you have to listen to from start to finish to really get it, to really enjoy it the way it's supposed to be enjoyed and understand it. I actually did that today when I was out running errands. It was the right amount of time as far as that I had to spend in the car. And I thought, hey, I haven't thrown that on in a while. And the first thing that came to me as I was listening, and you talk about how important Roger Waters is to Pink Floyd being Pink Floyd. And I totally agree. Also, though, on this record, David Gilmour is in full beast mode. Every song, every song. And when I say every song, I mean like Shine On You Crazy Diamond 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the first one that has the 5 parts. When it gets to that second part with those 3, 4 notes that we all know as Pink Floyd fans, and then he's ripping constantly. Like every chance there is to rip on the guitar, he is letting it go. I'm with you. When it comes to Pink Floyd, it's not Pink Floyd without both of those guys. It's something else. Roger Waters as a solo guy doesn't sound like Pink Floyd. David Gilmour as a solo guy, I'm sorry, David Gilmour as Pink Floyd,
Right.
Gilmour Floyd, Pink David. I don't know. I feel like without Waters, Pink Floyd is just, it's like solo Gilmour. Like he pretty much overpowered the whole thing through the 80s and beyond. But I was just so struck today, just getting back to what I was saying, so struck by the amazing guitar work on this record. And part of that comes from, I read this somewhere. I know, anecdotal. I can't tell you where I read it. But, he had some qualms with Dark Side. Like he didn't feel like he got everything into it that he wanted to get into it. And when I thought about that today, I was like, yeah, he was totally trying to make up here. Okay, so that's a couple of things. I had one more, I have a third thing, and then I've talked all I want to talk on this one. But the title track, Wish You Were Here. That's one of the first songs I learned to play on guitar. That's one of the first songs that a lot of people who play guitar decide to learn, I feel like. I know all of my guitar friends know it. I still can't play the lead part very good, but it's David Gilmour shit. So it's one of my favorite songs of all time. I say that a lot, and I think you can have 50 songs that are your favorite of all time because there are millions of them out there. This is one of them. And I love lyrics. I love good lyrics, and this one has one of the best lyrics when he's talking about, did you give up your walk-on part in the war for a lead role in the cage? And I could spend an hour talking about what that actually means, but you guys just out there, just think about that. Think about how many times you give up something that you think is not good enough for something that definitely it's not good. That's kind of what that line means to me. Sure, you had to sneak in on this one. You had to walk on. It's like a walk-on football player. I mean, would you rather be a walk-on football player who ends up starting and winning the Heisman Trophy, or get that Division 1A scholarship and ride the bench? It's about not riding the bench to me. Anyway, love that lyric. It always strikes me. Just even today in the car, I'm just like, oh, every time I hear it. So yeah, those are my thoughts on this record. I could go on and on. I think it's an amazing record. We use this word a lot. We're going to use it more even in this podcast, but it's a masterpiece, and it comes after another masterpiece. It's 2 in a row, man. That's crazy.
I'm glad you mentioned that about the lyrics. I think it's one of the best well-written songs as far as the lyrics go, because it's like each line you could do what you just did. You could break it down and have a deeper philosophical discussion about what that means to you, and it could mean something different to everybody.
Right.
And that's pretty awesome, pretty magical to be able to do just in one song. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Last thing I'll say, this one is shoved between Dark Side and the Wall, along with, you mentioned Animals, and I think sometimes people forget it and forget just how good it is from start to finish. Of course, they hear Have a Cigar all the time on classic rock radio or XM, and they're going to hear Welcome to the Machine and even Wish You Were Here. I think Have a Cigar is maybe the one single of their entire catalog that I hear the most on classic rock radio for some reason. Right? Or am I crazy saying that?
No, you're not crazy.
I feel like I hear that one more out in the wild than any other song by them. And that just goes to show how great this record is. Yeah, those three middle songs, oh, nice little bite-sized chomps of goodness, you know. And obviously Radio Ready. Okay. All right. What do you have at we got your 5, my 4. So now we're
Okay.
up to 4.
All right, yeah, let's go with my 4. I put it in there today. I've been thinking about it all week. And it's Fleetwood Mac by Fleetwood Mac. So this is the first album with Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks. This is the traditional lineup that everyone knows. I mean, I think maybe it's common knowledge that people know that Fleetwood Mac was a band before Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks, but maybe not everybody knows that. So it's number 4 for me and number 2 for you.
Yes, number 2 on mine.
So I want to give you plenty of time to talk about it. In short, there's no way in the history of my listening to music that I could leave this out. When I went back and looked at everything that is on this album, you can't leave it out. It is great. Now, Fleetwood Mac is a band that I absolutely love, and I've liked them. I probably started liking them shortly after, probably as 14 or 15 when I really got into them. And it was cool. You know, I was a fan. It's kind of like what I did with Led Zeppelin. I got really into Led Zeppelin, and then they reunite. And, you know, Jimmy Page and Robert Plant have the MTV special, and I see him in concert. It's like, boy, that was awesome. That was great timing. Kind of the same thing happened for me with Fleetwood Mac. I had been a fan. I had just really become a huge fan of theirs. And then they get back together and do the dance, which was a pretty good live show, I thought, especially doing songs like The Chain, which we'll talk about that in a couple episodes. But it was just excellent timing for me as far as my fandom in Fleetwood Mac. But let's talk about this album. One of my favorite songs, it's not even really a hit, although I hear it on XM or whatever. It's Monday Morning. That's the first song on the track or on the album. And that's a Lindsey Buckingham song. Dude's an asshole. Let's all agree on that. I don't think anybody would disagree with us there, but my gosh, he is a talented asshole.
Even douche canoes can be talented. So.
Right. I mean, I just wish he'd lighten up and just be a fraction nicer and less conceited.
Yeah, but, it's the ego. It's the ego.
Right? Dang on it, man. He's so good. I'll just look past that for him. Boy, he's a great songwriter, but he is an excellent, excellent guitar player.
Very underrated.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mentioned the dance, the way he rips up Big Love.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, anyway. All right. Let's talk about this album. So it's got one of my favorite Stevie Nicks songs. Actually, it's got 2 of my all-time favorite Stevie Nicks songs. Oh my God. It's got Rhiannon and Landslide.
Landslide wasn't even a single.
And that's amazing to me. And Landslide, if I'm looking on Spotify, it's the most played song. But I think that has to do with how many times it's been covered.
True.
So in 94, the Smashing Pumpkins did what I feel like is the best cover of that song. And I've talked to people who even love that version more than the original. And that's okay. You can have that. I'm a huge Smashing Pumpkins fan, but I'm going to say that I like the Fleetwood Mac version the best.
While we're mentioning this song, I'll just, if I can jump in.
Please.
This is one of those songs that when I was younger, and when I say younger, maybe a teenager, I knew about it then, or even in my 20s, but probably teen years. It's one of those songs that I knew was going to mean more to me one day than it did right then. Because even though I had not gone through adulthood and raised kids and been through hardships and all the things that come along with being an adult, I felt every single one of them in this song. And it was almost like giving me a preview Like, buddy, you're going to feel this way one day. This song is going, you love this song right now. One day this song is going to make so much sense to you. And that's how it worked out. There's lots of songs like that. Jack and Diane by John Cougar Mellencamp. That's another one of those songs. Later in life, you're like, man, I get it. And I knew back then one day it would it would mean something more to me. But yeah, Landslide's definitely one of those. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
That's so cool. And that is a really good point. I mean, the thing about that song, it just sounds like, I mean, the thought I had is she's just telling a story. And it's like she's like, listen, I have a story to tell you, and you're gonna listen, and I'm gonna grab you with it in the beginning, and I'm gonna have you until the end of it. And I think Stevie Nicks, she has one of my favorite female voices in rock and roll. It's raspy, it's dirty, it's angelic at times, it's complicated, just like she was. It's a beautiful song. Now we'll back up. Rhiannon was probably my second favorite Fleetwood Mac song, just for several reasons. I love the sound of the guitar. I love the tone of that song. You know, one thing about this band that I don't think gets talked about a lot is the bass and drums. I mean, John McVie on bass and Mick Fleetwood on drums. Just I'm thinking about the little things going on in the background that Mick Fleetwood would do just to add this ambiance to the sound, to the song. And he was brilliant at doing that. So, Rich, I went down this wormhole yesterday about drummers. I watched this YouTube video about 20 best drum intros in rock and roll. That was fun. So I'm kind of just focused on drums right now.
That's cool.
But you could talk a lot about, and there's not really any like major drum work on that particular song. But I'm just thinking about just the way he uses cymbals and the way he just his choices in all of Fleetwood Mac's songs. He's a really really incredible drummer.
He's one of
Um,
those drummer. I call him tasty. Like he's never overdoing it. Everything is just so in touch.
right?
Just like, yeah, always in the pocket. He's one of those pocket drummers. Never gets out of it. Just tasty. Like it's not showy. It's what the songs need. He's a great drummer.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then you've got two great Christine McVie songs, "Over My Head" and "Say You Love Me." My God, those are wonderful songs, and all that's crammed in the middle of the album. But I tell you, a song I really love, and it is just kind of haunting. The album ends with "I'm So Afraid," and Mick Fleetwood has some great drum work on that. But that's a Lindsey Buckingham song, and it's just brilliant. It's just a great way to end the album. It's just raw, emotional, and you know what? They were raw and emotional
Yeah,
band.
that's why they were so great. I mean, there was just so much drama, so much going on for years, for
And
years.
they transferred every bit of that into their music.
Did yeah. This record it's number two for me, and the reason it's number two is this is the soundtrack to my childhood. This and Rumors, amongst other records, but these two from Fleetwood Mac are my mother. It's her favorite band ever. We were always listening to Fleetwood Mac. I hear Rhiannon or Over My Head or Say You Love Me. Immediately, I'm back to 7, 8 years old. These songs were old by then, but they were still out there on the radio all the time for years and still are. I mean, they're very, very popular songs and they always will be. And that, yeah, these songs just take me back to not necessarily moments when I was a kid, but just like the feeling of being a kid. So there's lots of nostalgia wrapped up in this record. It's Monday Morning was not a hit. You touched on it. I wouldn't have really known about it when I was a kid, but now as an adult, I'm like, that's an amazing song. And then, of course, Lindsay opens and closes the record. You mentioned "I'm So Afraid." Again, another song I would not have known as a kid or even a teenager. It was later in life when I started really listening to records start to finish and figuring out what's going on. And those two songs are crazy good. And again, you're talking about Lindsey Buckingham just being this. He's almost a savant in some ways. Love this record. like I said, I can just gush and gush about how it was just an integral part of my life for many, many years. And it's not Rumors, but it's damn near close. It's
Yeah.
not too far behind because there are some weak tracks on here, and I won't point them out. That's what keeps this one from being back-to-back masterpieces for them. This one's not the masterpiece that Rumors is, but by golly, they got close. I mean, they were really building up to something with this. So that was your number 4 and my number 2. So we're up to my number 3.
Yes.
Okay. So my number 3 is A Night at the Opera by Queen. Originally, this was not in my top 5, but I was like you. I was going back and listening to some of these records, and I was thinking, how in the world am I going to leave this out? It has to be there. Again, as you said, it was a, challenging year to pick records. But I'm just going to dive right in. So we all know about Bohemian Rhapsody. We don't have to talk too much about that. But amazing song, crazy production, crazy vocals. Wayne's World, Party Time, excellent. I'm not going to talk too much about Bohemian Rhapsody. It's we've beaten that horse over the years till it's dead. But there are a few songs on here that just absolutely blow me away in many different ways. And I'm just going to touch on a few. And where I'm going to start is I'm in love with my car. And of course, that's not Freddie, that's Roger singing. And I guess Roger Taylor actually wrote it too. What a just a great track and weird track. He's talking about a car like it's a woman, and you fucking believe him that he really loves this car, you know? But it's a good track and a great vocal. And then right after it is You're My Best Friend, which, Freddie sings it. I didn't know this until I started doing research. John Deacon wrote this song. I just assumed Freddie Mercury did. This is one of those songs, if I feel bad, I can put this on. And within that first, when it starts, as soon as that starts, boom, I'm starting to feel good. That little, I don't know, it's some sort of keyboard. It's probably like a Fender. I don't know. It's a Fender Rhodes or something, but it sounds very 70s. Somebody says 70s music. This song is one of the ones that comes to mind for me. I love this song. It's pretty straightforward. There's like nothing groundbreaking or like as far as lyrically. Then the next song, 39, which was written and sung by Brian May. What a cool little three in a row we got going right here. Anytime Brian May sings, I'm in. Like I love his solo stuff. It's wild though how much they obviously spent time together because there's a little bit in all three of their vocals that's something the same, like a I don't know, like an inflection or a I don't know. They sound like brothers. I mean, like how they're close in the way their vocals sound to me. But anyway, that's just an aside. The last one I'll really cover. Well, there are those two more. We're going to skip on down to the Prophet song. Oh God, I remember the first time I heard this, and I can tell you when it was, and it was right after Wayne's World when Bohemian Rhapsody became the big deal again, and we all ran out and bought this CD. I did. I think everybody may have. And I've never listened to this CD before. I've never listened to the record. We didn't have Queen records when I was growing up. I knew about Queen. I knew about the songs. I liked them. This song came on, and I was just like, "What in the world? What is going on?" Again, it's one of those. It's like it reminds me of something like we talked, in the previous episode about Camelot Rock and the whole like dramatic, almost theatrical. This is one of those songs. Like it's like a little movie or something. Love it. And then Love of My Life follows that song up. There are lots of live concerts out there of Queen, and Freddie always did that song, just him and the piano. And it's just an amazing, amazing vocal every time he sings it, whether it's live or on this record. Crazy good. So yeah, like I can't leave this record out. One more thing, and I'm going to turn it over to you. There are three, count them, three Paul McCartney granny music songs on here. Blazing on a Sunday Afternoon,
Yes.
Seaside Rendezvous,
Yes.
and
Good company.
yes, Good Company. Yeah, but it's that granny music stuff that John Lennon used to make fun of Paul about. And actually, it's probably good company. The Brian May song sounds like a Paul. It sounds like a Paul McCartney. It sounds
It
like it's Paul
totally
McCartney
does.
almost.
It
I,
totally does.
I was listening to this one today before I left to do my errands, and that song came up, and I was like, man, that really sounds like Paul McCartney. It sounds like Freddie Mercury doing Paul McCartney, but it's Brian May. Again, it's where they all have that similar thing going on with the way that they sing. But I love those three songs. I mean, I didn't want to spend time pointing each one out. I just wanted to put them together because they're all that granny music thing, and I love that. Like I don't care what John Lennon says. When Paul McCartney does that stuff, it it's a good break from, we're going to talk about Led Zeppelin again later. Stuff like this is a good break from something heavy like that. Like there's a place for every bit of this music. But anyway, I just want to definitely point out that those are Paul McCartney granny music songs. So I'm going to turn it over to you now.
So I don't have a lot more to add.
Wait,
Go
listen how excited I was, and this wasn't even in my five a week ago.
I know, right?
It's crazy.
Now this one's been in my top five, and so it's number 2 for me. So it's been in my top 5 the whole time when I first put the list together. I'm glad you didn't talk about this song because one of my favorites, besides Bohemian Rhapsody, my favorite song on this album is the first song, Death on Two Legs. It is one of the best songs to start an album ever for me. It's got a piano intro, and then it just has a raunchy, dirty guitar riff. And then it kind of quiets back down, and then Freddie Mercury just starts. It's wonderful song. They're all just what a great start to the album. So at the time when this album was produced, it was the most expensive album to put together. I think they spent the more money on this album than anyone had ever spent on an album. Another thing about this, another reason why I love it so much, and it's so wonderful to enjoy from start to finish. I think I've mentioned this band. They're a cover band. They're called the Black Jacket Symphony. They did this in Bristol at the Paramount. I don't know how many years ago.
Were you there?
But yes, I was there to
Dude,
see
I
it.
was too. How did we not know each other was there? That
I
was
don't know.
when the Mark Martell guy sang with them, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
no, me and Sherry went to that. How did we not know that the other one was there?
I don't know, buddy. I
That's
don't know.
we did lose contact there for a little
We
bit.
did.
Like not contact, but like constant contact like we have now. But still, that's a low
Yeah.
place. I can't believe we didn't bump into each other.
I know. I know, right?
Anyway, go ahead. It was a great show.
It was. And so yeah, the format, what they do, they cover a classic album and then they take a break and then they do like greatest hits from that band. They study what the thing they do is they study the album and they make sure it sounds exactly as close to exactly how the album should sound. And for me, hearing it live, it's not Queen. I understand that. But that's about the closest it would have sounded to Queen I think you could get. And because there's like a host of, they have a stage full of people up there. And yeah, they got like the dead ringer for Freddie Mercury to sing. It was just a wonderful musical experience, but it supported the fact that this album is so great.
All timer.
It is. I think it's my favorite Queen album. And yeah, that's why it's number 2 for me. So that's all I have to. I don't have any more to say about that one.
Cool, man. So we're up to your number 3.
Okay. This one you do not have in your list. It is Born to Run by Bruce Springsteen. So trying to remember when I really got into Bruce. I think I've always, liked a handful of his songs. Like Born to Run, title track from this album. I think I've always liked that song. But I've always liked Dancing in the Dark. But really, it was like Streets of Philadelphia. I did like that song, and so kind of like Human Touch when it came out. My dad had that double album, Human Touch and Lucky Town, but I never really got into him. Maybe until like 10 years ago or so. That sounds probably about right. maybe 8 years ago. It really started with this album, though, Born to Run. And it has my favorite Bruce Springsteen song in Thunder Road. That is my favorite. It will always be my favorite. I can close my eyes and just sit here and I can just play the whole song in my head. It is and it is just, I can't even describe it, man. I got no words for it. I love the song. It moves me. And I don't know why it took me so long on Bruce. I'm gonna be honest with you. After Tunnel of Love album, which I actually think is really good, and after the Streets of Philadelphia song, I'm not really much into Bruce after that, to be honest with you. And it's a problem I have. I talk about this a lot of time, like with artists that once they kind of go on the decline, and some people might argue with me, no, Bruce has put out some great stuff. Well, that's great. I hope you do enjoy it. I don't know. There's just something in me that I might pull away from if it's not, and it's probably not fair to the artist because they can't keep up this high level.
Rock and roll is a young man's game. The further they get away from what made them want to do music and what inspired them both to do it and then inspired what they did, the further they get away from that. This is my new theory, by the way.
Hmm.
The further they get away from that point in time, the less interesting it is. I mean, what does a 75-year-old guy who now has all the money in the world, what does he really have to say? You know, I'm not saying he doesn't have anything to say. I'm not saying that. But what is he really what's really left to say? That's just my new theory.
No, it's a great theory.
The further they get away from that inception point, that when they get started and they're inspired both to do it and then they're inspired while they're doing it, the further you get away from that, the less interesting it is for me. I'm starting to get that way with Foo Fighters, and it breaks my heart.
Dude, I've already been there.
Since Wasting Light, that was.
Yes.
I'll still listen to the new stuff, but anyway, we're not talking about Foo Fighters, but it's just a good example because it's a newer example.
Mm-hmm. No, that's perfect. No, I think,
And it does break my heart when this happens with our favorite people. That when you get farther and farther away from that 20-year-old guy, spitting piss and vinegar, and now he's a 75-year-old guy, or he's a 55-year-old guy, or whatever. It's just not the same, and it can't be. That's okay. That's fine.
is it the thought like, remember you remember when the Who played the Super Bowl and we all could see Pete Townshend's belly? It was over. All right, back to Born to Run.
Back to Born to Run.
But to kind of feed off what you did, I love what you just said. I think that's a great theory, and it probably explains.
I'm a very
So
wise man, people. I'm a very wise man.
yeah, it's the hair
Yeah.
and the beard.
Just goofing. Go ahead. Back to Born to Run.
Back to Born to Run. 10th Avenue Freeze Out.
Great R&B song.
God, Clarence Clemens,
The big man.
man, he was so good. He was so good. That's one of the things. Like Bruce's music just makes me feel things. Okay, but I love the album cover where he's just leaning on Clarence. There's just a brotherhood between all of them. It's like any band; they were magic together. I'm usually, if you look at my music history, a lot of the bands I listen to are very technically like sound, or they're expert musicians or aficionados would be like, oh man, let's break down Rush, and all three of them are excellent musicians and they sound very tight together. And the same could be said for Genesis and Led Zeppelin. And, I go through all these bands. I don't think anyone ever says that about the E Street Band.
I don't think the E Street Band has any virtuosos. I mean, Max Weinberg's a really good drummer, but Clarence Clemens can play the hell out of that saxophone. But nobody's going on and on about Bruce Springsteen's guitar playing or Little Stevens, or they're just. I know what you're about to say, and I'm going to let you say it.
But I mean, how they just sound great together, and it's kind of the dirty sound, the same sound that the Rolling Stones have.
Truly a band.
It's a band, and it fits. You mentioned playing in the pocket earlier, which was a term I heard twice yesterday when I was going down that wormhole about drummers. And Max Weinberg kind of kept all this band together, but he keeps this band and lets them do their own thing, and that's why it sounds the way that it sounds, and it works. I've already mentioned Born to Run, but I have to mention Backstreets and Jungle Land. Those are both epically great songs. He does a good job about album arrangement. I mean, this is one of the best songs to end an album, and it's just so raw and it's so emotional. And Bruce is an excellent storyteller, and he does the same thing about Backstreets. He's, just talking about just what it says, just what happens in the backstreets of where he lives. And Jungle Land, it'd take me a while to get into. I don't know. Once I discovered Bruce, he kind of cemented his early work, kind of cemented itself into my all-time favorite music. And again, it's the early part. It kind of loses me later on, but we've already talked about that. But for what this is in its time, I love it. It's number 3 for me.
So it's not on my list, and here's where I'm going to shock you. You know that I've always not been a Bruce fan at all.
Right.
Really. So first shock is I've never listened to this record start to finish.
Whoa.
Second shock is I fixed that this week, and I think that I listened to it 8 or 9 times.
Really?
And I like this album now so much that if we did this 5 years from now, it might be in my top 5.
Yes.
It can't be right now because of what the other ones are and what they mean.
Right.
This is an amazing album. Flat out amazing. Like I said, listen to it like 8 or 9 times. I've read a million things about it. Thunder Road, I'm with you. Great song. And the track placements, like you said, one of the things I read was that all these 8 songs happen over the same evening through the night. It's not a concept album, but it's Bruce wanted these to all be about a night, and that makes total sense. The whole record is about breaking free and moving on, and I get it now. I get it. And I agree with you on Jungle Land. What a story. Like, what a story. This week was the first time I've ever even listened to that song.
Wow.
And it was that song that made me go back and listen to the record again. And then I just got caught in this loop where I'm like, I want to know this record before we talk about it because I know Clint loves it. And I just totally understand. So yeah, that's the shock of the day right there. Now I'm going to dive into more Bruce Springsteen because I just have a different appreciation now. So yeah, there you
Awesome.
go. Yeah, Tramps Like Us, baby.
Totally.
I also I agree with you, like Backstreets. Every song's good. It's every song and perfect placement, and it's a perfect album to listen to start to finish.
Yeah, it's great.
It doesn't take you that long.
No.
And he can tell a story in a short amount. Of course, Jungle Land, that story needed the almost 10 minutes that it is.
Yes.
The epic fucking. It's like a movie. It's like a book. It's epic, both in length and the story that it's telling, and him dying in the end, and just so much.
I know.
Just so dramatic, man. Anyway, so yeah, Born to Run, dude. Great pick, and it was just because we do this podcast that this happened for me. So that makes this worth it. Okay, that was your number 3. My number 2 was Fleetwood Mac. We've already covered. Your number 2 was A Night at the Opera, which we've already covered. So now we're at number 1 for both of us. And go figure, it's the same record. So you started us out, so I'm going to let you start this one, see what you're thinking.
Okay, Physical Graffiti by Led Zeppelin. Double album. So much to dig through on this album. There's no way that this will ever be displaced from number 1 for this year for me.
Me either. Or in their catalog. It's my favorite record by them. So
yeah. You talked about that. I got talked about Houses of the Holy, maybe it right now. Led Zeppelin 4 sneaks in there. But I think this one is always in the conversation just because there's so much there. There's so much music. So I was thinking about this week, little fun story. So, I mentioned earlier, I became a Led Zeppelin fan like 13, 14, somewhere around there. I remember in middle school, me and a friend of mine, Justin Rubenstein, I have no idea where that kid is now, but he was another friend I had that I could really geek out on Led Zeppelin with. And I don't know how many times, Rich, we were making top 25 Led Zeppelin songs in eighth grade all the time. But every time the same top three. Now the order might have been different, but the top three were always Stairway to Heaven, Achilles' Last Stand, and Kashmir, which is on this album. But I was just thinking about him this week. I hope he's doing well. I have that as a very vivid and positive and wonderful music memory. And I was making lists as a teenager, so it's just funny. We're sitting there making lists now.
Endorphins.
Yeah.
Cheap way to just make myself feel good. Make a list.
I know, right?
Even better is when you're making the kind of list where you get to check things off. Talk about endorphin rushes.
Dude. Totally. I will put something down on a list just that I'm just getting ready to
That you've
finish.
already done so that you can mark it. Yeah, me too.
Yes. It's a real endorphin rush.
Or that, or we're mentally ill. I don't know.
You know what? No. I don't think we like to get shit done, Rich. What's wrong with that? There can't be anything wrong with that. Come on.
So you mentioned Kashmir, so we'll just start there. Why not? Because I had never heard that song as a kid. First time I heard it, and we talked about my history of rock class at UT, episode or two ago. We had that professor that taught the class that loved Led Zeppelin, and we spent a lot of time on Led Zeppelin, and that's the first time I heard Kashmir was in his class on a vinyl record through this amazing stereo. And I was immediately thinking, where has this been all my life? I knew Stairway to Heaven, probably rock and roll at that point, basically four, because everybody had that record. Everybody's parents had that record. You want to talk about ubiquitous, like you couldn't get away from it. And that record was in my household. The only Led Zeppelin record that I remember seeing. So to hear Kashmir was like I had a moment. I was thinking, this might be the greatest rock and roll song I've ever heard in my life. And saying that that's possibly the greatest rock and roll song I'd heard in my life, let's just jump. We're going to jump into a lot of songs. We just are. I know we are.
Mm-hmm.
Me too. But one thing I want to say about this, I'm going to throw it back to you. This is a rock and roll album by one of the best rock and roll groups. And I say this because not all of their albums are really rock and roll, especially the early stuff. A lot of albums were blues heavy. This is the best rock and roll album by one of the best rock and roll bands.
I can't disagree with that at all. Especially
podcast over.
Yeah, exactly. especially disc one. It's pure rock and roll. Custard Pie is just a wonderful rock and roll song, and it's so in character for Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, for sure. Wild dudes, man.
They were, yeah. I read a book about them.
Was that When We Were Giants, or was it that book?
I don't remember which one it was, man.
Something Giants is in the title when it goes through all of their escapades.
Yeah. So I was reading about that at an early age.
I'm going to talk about a hedonistic bunch of good for nothing. You want to talk about tramps like us?
Yeah. So I don't think we'll ever hold them in high esteem for their good deeds. No. Let's just focus on the music. Custard Pie, the Rover. So I remember having this conversation with my friend Jason Cole. He was another friend I could just we geek out on Led Zeppelin. But I swear we would hear the Rover. I'm like, you know what this sounds like? This sounds like Van Halen. There is some hints of Van Halen in the Rover to me. So it's just, again, these bands like here when this comes out, and there's, I mean, it's only like Van Halen's first album comes out in '78. They had to have heard this and been influenced by it.
Yeah, you've just beaten me to this whole point, and it's not
Oh,
necessarily
I'm
it's not,
sorry.
but no, it's great because we're on the same wavelength here, and it's not really necessarily that the Rover sounds like Van Halen. I listened to this record, and I listened to it a couple of times this week, just once while I was driving around, or while I was like doing dishes and stuff, and then once I listened to the vinyl record. You can hear so much of like the '80s rock and roll. They were all doing the tricks from this record. This particular record, not just Led Zeppelin, like in general. They were doing stuff that sounds like this record. And that goes back to why I say the best rock and roll album by one of the best rock and roll bands because of how much it obviously, even hair metal, you can hear, Led Zeppelin's doing it better in 1975. It's starting to sound weird as hair metal, but it's there. Like they're playing the riffs the same way. They're Led Zeppelin in makeup, but not as good of musicians. Aerosmith, Aerosmith wanted to be the American Led Zeppelin. You can hear Led Zeppelin's influence on just even Aerosmith, even the '70s Aerosmith, and they were contemporaries. Anyway, great point. I hadn't thought about the Van Halen thing, but yeah, and that just goes with what I was thinking this week is, man, these guys wrote the blueprint for the next 15 years.
Oh, totally. Yeah, Custard Pie could be a hair metal song.
And then in the '90s, the grunge thing, the alternative thing, or whatever you want to call it, they went back and grabbed it and used it in a different way than the rock and roll guys in the '80s did. I mean, epic. This is epic.
Well, I think okay, that's a great point because in my time of dying, it's 11 minutes. It's a lot. Let it get into it. Let it get into it and how dirty and raunchy, but it sounds so good.
Mhm.
Just pure rock and roll. Like John Bonham is playing out of his mind. Everybody is playing out of their mind on that track. But I just think of the dirty sound, and you make the reference to grunge.
Here's one for you. Think about how many songs from the grunge era sound like 10 years gone,
A
right?
lot.
It sounds like it could have been made in 1993.
Okay, so a song that just popped in my head, thinking about 10 years gone, is Rooster by Alice in Chains.
Totally. Yeah. No, almost any, like, there's so many things that sound like 10 years gone. Like that
Yeah,
would,
that's a wonderful song.
yeah, that's, boy, I mean, there's Kashmir, but 10 years gone is a close second for me on the record, honestly. I just, that song it's just, but anyway.
Well, In the Light, too. Okay, so In the Light's a song. I have a former colleague at Eastman. We were talking about this album one day, and he was just telling me In the Light was his favorite song off the record. And that song, it just had, it doesn't sound like anything they've ever done before. It's just some weird sounds, but then it's just got just a wonderful riff, just a wonderful tone. The da na 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 na, and you just hear that over and over in the song, and it's just got many parts to it. It's really complex, but just so lovely.
Yep, love that one too. And of course, there's Houses of the Holy. You want to talk about just like a rocker, like it, and I, it doesn't sound like anything else, but and it just may be because I've listened to so much Led Zeppelin over the last 30 years.
Yeah,
Even though I can't place my finger on it sounding like something else. So it's original, right? Obviously, and they were very much that way. But it's so familiar that it feels like it sounds like something else. But it and that also could be because of everything they inspired. It probably sounds like something else because it was something that came after. Just I can go on and on about how important this record is to rock and roll music for the next 20 years after they released it.
and so one thing, looking at the track list, and it reminded me when I saw Page and Plant '95, they covered the Wonton song. They did the Wonton song live, and I remember, oh man, they've never done this one before.
Did you see them at Thompson Bowling?
Heck
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I was there too. I
That was
don't.
before we knew
I
each
didn't
other
even know
then.
you then. Yeah, but
Yeah,
yeah, I was. We were at the same place then too.
I love that.
Yeah, that was a great concert. But yeah, I remember them doing that. And I was just like, well, that's a weird pick.
No, it worked.
It
It
did.
worked. Okay. Yeah. It's an all timer, man.
Yeah, definitely deserves to be number one for anybody that loves music for this year. If you don't have this, if you love rock and roll music and this isn't your favorite record from 1975, screw you. Like that was harsh. Forget you.
I'm Ricky Bobby. If you don't like Big Red,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there. When I got to 1975 when we were making the lists, like I already knew what was number one in 1975 for me. So yeah, great album, great album. So we said that this was a hard year, right? That it was hard
yeah.
to come up with some picks, not to come up with picks, but it was hard leaving things out. So we can talk a little bit about some of the stuff we had to leave out.
So pretty close to the top five for both of us is Katie Lied by Steely Dan. And it's not even, I don't even know if it's a top three Steely Dan album.
No, it's not, but it's good.
God, I know. It's so
Good.
good.
Yeah. You know, they're starting to put together the sound that's going to be the next couple of albums. Is what's happening here in Katie Lied.
And Michael McDonald is like singing backup almost every song.
Yeah. Now this is really when they're moving into their kind of kings of yacht rock, even though that's not what it was called back then, but where they're sort of moving into where they would settle for a little while. You know,
Yes.
with Asia and well, next is the Royal Scam, and then Asia and Gaucho, and but this sets that stuff up
Yeah.
like it's the progression. So yeah, good album, hard to leave off, but we had to. You had a lot of back and forth on your number five. So what was that?
Oh, it breaks my heart because I'm such a big Rush fan. Until like a couple days ago, I had Wish You Were Here number four and Fly By Night number five. And then I had to put Fleetwood Mac in that top five for me. So Fly By Night is the first album. See, that's the second album, but it's the first album with Neil Peart. And let me tell you, go listen, really listen to the first album and then listen to Fly By Night. The change in sound is so dramatic. I mean, don't ever tell me that drums don't make a difference. Drum make all the difference. I even had this conversation with Josh over text yesterday, Rich, is that Ringo, the Beatles were not the Beatles until they found their drummer.
Sure.
Ringo brought it all together. Neil Peart, like I don't know what trajectory Rush was going to go on, but Neil Peart put them on the right trajectory. He wrote all the songs. He is just one of the most unbelievably talented, best drummers you'll ever hear. And but all of Alex Lifeson's an amazing guitar player. Geddy Lee is just an amazing bass player. I mean, they do everything great.
Yeah, but
Uh,
you are right in a drummer makes a difference. I've been in bands. You can suffer through a just okay guitar player. You can suffer through maybe somebody that plays keyboards, like Paul did with Linda. That was a shot. That was mean. But you can't suffer a bad drummer, and you
no,
can't suffer a bad bass player. I mean, that's your rhythm section. That's what holds it all together, and that's what makes it sound the way it needs to. Drummers are that important.
yeah,
They're also the hardest thing to find. Good drummers, believe me, trying to find one right now. Good drummers are hard to find, and they're also fucking weirdos. When you find a good one, you're gonna struggle through how weird. And Neil Peart was a very weird dude.
he was. Yeah,
Big Ayn Rand fan. The very strict libertarianism and then that's like 2112 is all about that stuff. I can overlook it because it's so good, but drummers are weird, man. They're like a creature of their own. but they are important. Like you nail it. You nail it when
Yeah. Now they had 2 albums that year, Caress of Steel, um, which is great also. It's just, 1975's loaded, man.
Yeah, I don't think I know that one.
Caress of Steel has Bastille Day, Lakeside Park, The Necromancer, The Fountains of Lament. Oh yeah, the other song is I Think I'm Going Bald is the other song.
Think I'm going bald.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so one of the ones that I struggled mightily with, but I thought, I can leave it out and still talk about this. And I've talked about it before. Maybe on this podcast, maybe not. I'm going to do it again. But Roxy Music's Siren was this year,
Mm-hmm.
and the first track on that record is Love is the Drug. That was the song. That's the one. That's the one that got me hooked on them. That was the one that when I was in the car and it came on that weird Asheville radio station, and I thought it was some Duran Duran song that I'd never heard before. Just a fantastic song.
It is.
Record's good. Again, it was just I can't leave out Physical Graffiti or there's the ones that I have in my top 5 can't come out for this. But I was like, I can still talk about that song. That song is so good. It's maybe their best song, at least my favorite. So that was one of the tough ones for me. I'm thinking, yeah, there's no way I can put it up there. I wish I could. If it was a top 10, sure, but we're only doing a 5. So
That's right. And One of These Nights by the Eagles.
yeah, which is probably the first Eagles record that I really like.
Yeah.
Really like. Before this one, it's I don't, the cowboy record, not for me. The peaceful, easy feeling, take it easy stuff is just not for me. Even though I played Take It Easy 10 zillion times in the band, but One of These Nights, that's a great record, and the title track, that's just Eagles, man. That song that's Eagles. But that's another good record that year. Poison the Attic is this year. If you're an Aerosmith fan, you probably put that in your top 5 for this year. If you love Aerosmith, like I would say, Josh would have Toys in the Attic in his top 5.
And I, that would be a good pick. I like that album. Blood on the Tracks by Bob Dylan was in 75.
I know, it's crazy. Young Americans by David Bowie was in 1975. Styx, Caught in the Act. That's a great record. I love listening to that record.
Just a great year, man.
Well, cool, man. That was fun. I thought, hey, we've got a lot of matches. This will be a short one.
Yeah, right.
Oh, anytime it's a year like this where there are so many albums that we love so much and that we continually go back to, we're going to be excited and talk a lot about them.
Absolutely.
All right, cool. I mean, I guess we'll wrap up 1975 then. So that's awesome. So we've gotten through like 4 years already. Listen, if you're listening right now, you know how to find us, but I'll just tell you there are other ways and other means out there if you'd like. You can find us in Spotify, Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts. Audible now. I think I did finally see it show up on Audible Prime, maybe. And you can also use our feed. You can use our website. But we just, listen, we appreciate if you're still here an hour or so later. We've been very happy with the fact that lots of people seem to be listening, at least more than in the past. And if you're still here listening to this, we appreciate it. I've had a lot more interaction. This is only going to get better. As we move through these years, we're going to start getting to years where we're actually actively listening to that music that year, and I can't wait for that. Like right now, Clint's not even born yet, and I'm 3. So these are things that came to us later in life. I can't wait till we get into the stuff that like we were actively listening to while it was new.
Mm-hmm.
So hang on with us. We're going to get there. But Clint, you have anything in closing? I never ask you if you have anything to close out with.
This was a fun time as always, man. And it's funny. We talked about, we ought to be able to get through this quickly because there's so much commonality. But again, there was so much to talk about with this year. And there's going to be, we talk about how difficult it will be when we get to the 80s. And you just brought up a good point. Stuff we found when it came out and we were actively listening to it. I can't wait for that. So stay tuned, everybody. And we're getting better at this as we go.
Yeah, and this one today was really fun. You all know we love these records if you listen to us today, and that was fun. I was enjoying the energy. All right, well that's it. We'll see you next week, where it's 1976. Go check out 1976 and see what you think about that year. See what was out. It's another good year. But listen, everybody, take care. And as our good friend and drummer Ringo Starr says, peace and love.